very easy to download Robinhood and invest in some crypto, but it's hard to do the boring things. So that's kind of where I think most of our listeners are at. They're like, I know what I need to do, I think, but I'm just like in this boring like place. So like what would you recommend to them? Like if you are kind of starting out, but like you've been doing it for a smidge, how do you get over that like feeling of the boringness and like keep pushing through?
Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, one of the things I really appreciate about James Clear, who is the productivity guy, he wrote Atomic Habits. He says, you need to fall in love with the boredom. And so that's something that I actually have found that I'm very good at certain things. So I really, really like tracking my spending. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I am wired weird. And so I like doing that, but I like it even better when I have a spreadsheet that's in rainbow colors. And so my husband is not into the boring, but when we were first married, we were trying to pay off, he had a home equity line of credit from when he bought his house. And so we lived on his income and used mine to pay off the HELOC. And we put together a savings thermometer and put it on the kitchen wall. And so we would actually, because this is long enough ago that you actually got the statement in the mail, we would like race home to be the first one to open the statement so that we could color in the next little bit. And like, he fell in love with the boredom, like, because he really was like, yay, we can cross off another, however many $1,000. And so those are the sorts of things, like, find what motivates you and pair it with the boring stuff. And that is what's going to really move the needle, because, whatever it is that motivates you will help you keep coming until you get to the point where it's actually making a difference. And you've got the intrinsic motivation of like, yay, this is actually making a difference. And like, things are happening and it's exciting. So that can be hard to do if you don't know what's going to motivate you. But that's, experimenting, finding humor, doing artwork. One of the things I love about bullet journaling is it allows for a lot of creativity in this kind of falling in love with the boring aspect.
Cheryl and I did, this is how we found our fun, which is we turned the boring thing of talking about our money, which for us had been fighting about our money, into a fun weekly meeting. And the rule was it had to be fun first. It could only be 20 minutes. So we set a timer at 20 minutes. All we do is go through, to Emily's point, we go through our expenses from the week before, the expenses that we had automatically tracked through our app, and then talk about how we were going to spend money the next week. And it was done. And by the way, we were required to have either wine or pancakes with the meeting, depending on what time of day it was. So it had to be one or the other. But at 20 minutes, we were done. And the cool thing about this meeting is, when we have the meeting, which we still have because we've kept it fun and we've kept it short, we have these great organic conversations the rest of the week that we wouldn't have had if we didn't have that quick 20-minute meeting. If we don't have the 20-minute meeting, we don't have those conversations, and then it leads to money disagreements. So the bigger conversations aren't in that meeting. They're actually when we're doing other stuff, and they kind of stem from that time. And so this little fun thing, once again, gets to the depth that we really need to have.
It's such a good ritual, because 20 minutes isn't a lot, especially if you're only going to do that once a year. But if you're doing it regularly, it does start to stretch that muscle of, okay, we're going to be able to cover what we need because we're doing it so regularly. We've ritualized it. We've gamified it. We made it enjoyable. Was there ever a time when you didn't get through everything, but you still just stopped because 20 minutes was up?
Most weeks. Most of the time. Yes. No, seriously. Most of the time we're like, we're done. But the goal is to keep it fun. And I feel like, I know it's the money nerd in the family that listens to Frugal Friends. And I'll tell you, the worst thing to do is to drag somebody to the table. If you want to piss off your spouse or your friend or your accountability partner, drag them to the table and make them sit through this hour-long meeting that you love and they hate. right?
Yeah.
Don't do that. So no.
Don't drag them, lure them.
Exactly. Pancakes. Pancakes.
Yes. I like
That.
that.
I think what we're talking about is relevant for any aspect of life, especially if it's something long and requires a bit of a grind, that we hit these points where we might pull back a little bit, something else hijacks whatever it is that we were working towards. And then how do we get back into it? We're just experiencing this right now with renovations. We are in we are a year and a half into home renovations, and we've got potentially another 2 years ahead of us. And so we've gone in and out. Yeah. Thanks. That's helpful. Yeah. We've gone in and out, and we just had
feeling.
I know. We just had friends, and we've gone, we were really sick for a couple of weeks. So obviously that decreased our ability to go hard at renos. And then we had friends come in town, and they just helped us do a little bit. It wasn't much, maybe 4 hours of pulling drywall off the wall. And now my husband and I are like, all right, we're ready. Get ramped up for this weekend. But I think it's what we're talking about here, though, of realizing as we go, what are the motivators? And so I'm going to keep as a nugget in my head, a friend coming in who can help us for even a few hours helps to motivate us. And that might be even for finances. Is there somebody that I can invite into this conversation that would make it more enjoyable for me? And then to keep track of those things along the way. What motivated me last time when I found myself in this kind of stuck place? So love the ideas, the really tangible, the bullet journal, Emily, too. That's so awesome.
The thing I got out of that, though, Jill, was I'm not coming over.
At least for another 2 years.
House.
Like
she has a lovely house.
Yes,
it's just
they're done.
It's great. Still, even though the kitchen is a dumpster fire, it's the rest of the house is great.
And our listeners are probably so tired of hearing me describe my kitchen as a dumpster fire, but hey, hopefully it creates permission to live in a bit of a dumpster fire for some time.
Yeah, as you cash flow renovations.
Not the fun version of fire, but it's what we've got.
For sure. Yeah. I love this conversation because it's not the sexy conversation that it doesn't like boost your SEO in Google. Like people are not searching for how do I sustain a long-term financial goal, like retiring early or paying off debt. They're not searching for how to sustain it. They're asking, what's the best budgeting app? How can I budget better? Can I see other people's budgets so I can compare myself to them? And they're asking these questions that are, they're helpful at first, but like eventually they do not help any longer. And so, Emily, I loved what you said about intrinsic motivation, because that's what fun really does. If you can make something fun or entertaining, you will have the intrinsic motivation to keep going back to it. So it's boring. It's not the most comfortable. It's not ideal. But if you can embrace the boredom, what was that James Clear quote?
Fall in love with the boring.
Fall in love with the boring. Find ways. It's not forever. To some extent, personal finance is forever, but short personal goals, even if they take multiple years, in the grand scheme of thing, are actually like really short. So I love all of that.
And we've all experienced what chaos feels like. And so maybe boring is an attainable thing. Like, yeah, give me some boring. I'd love that. That'd be excellent. No hidden things around the corner.
I tell people is, people don't want to think about money. And so it's like, okay, you can do that. You can not think about your money. What that means is what the exchange is that you're going to have fires that you have to put out. And they're very stressful. So is it more stressful to, have the boring and do the weekly stuff that you really hate doing? Or is it more stressful to not think about it and have to deal with emergencies as they crop up? And you know what, if the second is what you'd prefer, try it. I think most human beings eventually get to the point where like, I can't do this anymore. I'd rather do the boring.
Yeah.
But recognizing that that is a trade-off, and that by embracing the boring, what you're doing is erasing the fires, the financial emergencies that are so stressful and cause you so much heartache. And that can be a good motivator until it becomes more intrinsic.
Well said.
It's like when you have an emergency fund, you no longer have emergencies.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's, stuff like that.
Oh, 200 episodes in, folks. Here we go. Get out your pen and paper.
We finally understand personal finance.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about the person who is stuck and they're doing the boring. Let's speak for a minute to the people who are new to money management. What, from your perspectives, is the first thing that they should do?
I think it's that idea of timelining your goals. Like, begin with the end in mind, because it solves so many things. And the reason is most of us start with the sexiness of investing, right? I mean, that's what I did. I remember I called a stockbroker. I had no idea what a stockbroker was in college. I called a stockbroker and I told him, and he's like, that I wanted to invest. I had some money. I had like $1,000. He's like, so what's the deal? And I said, hey, I've got, huge student loans. I've got a little bit of credit card debt. I was just beginning my credit card debt journey. I had all of these financial problems. And he told me, he's like, don't invest yet. You need to put some money in an emergency fund. Like, you need to get that debt paid off and then call me later. And that was great advice. But I think we all start there with, hey, I get fear of missing out from all this different stuff. So if I think about when my goals are and how to best achieve them, then I'm going to come backwards to, okay, what do I invest in that meets those goals? And that gets rid of a lot of this idea that I got to invest in everything and I got to know everything about everything. Now, if I start with the end in mind, I have to know very little. I only got to know about the things that meet that goal. So if I begin with that goal, it makes my research easier. It makes the research more fun because it's just in time and I'm going to use the research, versus this panicky situation people get themselves into of, I just don't know so much stuff. There's so much that we don't know, but you don't have to.
I feel that.
Thank you.
So I have felt that a lot lately, that there are a lot of things in personal finance that I don't know. And it makes me feel like a little shameful, but then I'm like, I don't need to know everything because I know my goals and my values and I've worked backwards and I'm doing everything I need to do to get to them. So there's a ton of things I don't need to know. And that's great.
And the cool thing there, Jen, is it can still be a good investment, right? It just isn't for you. So I think we judge through this lens of, is it a good investment or not? Which I think is a false lens. It should be, does it fit or not? So I can say confidently that probably is a good investment, but I've got no goal that meets that timeline. I've got nowhere in my portfolio that is good for me.